and thank you for joining us today. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America. Our topic today is the new civil rights movement. Here to talk with us about the difference between the old and the new and what we're fighting for now is Rashad Robinson, Executive Director of the colorofchange.org, the online social justice organization. And thank you so much for being here.
It's an honor.
You're a hero of mine. You're always like, I didn't realize that your career started when you were 14, but you were always this young guy doing everything. And so I'm so happy to have you on the show today.
It's great to be here.
So we always start by having our guests place themselves in Black America. You're a kid, you're on Long Island, I know that much. You know, what were your folks doing and how did your family get to Long Island?
It's actually, I grew up in a town of Riverhead, and it's a little outside of Riverhead, but I went to Riverhead High School. My family came from Virginia, like a lot of black folks did in that area, migrated to find work and to work. One of my earliest memories of social justice actually was going to the voting booth with my grandfather. And he would put me on his shoulders. And back then in Riverhead and in New York, we had those lever machines. And he would let me pull the names. And Riverhead was very famous for the large Polish population. So the folks running for office would oftentimes have very long names. And he would ask me to read and sound out the names. It wasn't until my grandfather died that I found out that he actually couldn't read or write. Huh. And, when he was growing up in Virginia, he went basically right into the fields to work and never got a formal education. And so much of my activism and advocacy has really been about this idea of not just changing policy, but changing culture. It wasn't illegal for my grandfather to get an education, but no one valued his education. And when I learned that, and as I was growing up, I got very involved in activism early on. I think at 14, I was knocking on doors for candidates, very involved in our local NAACP chapter with my parents. I had a local public access TV show. I led protests.
Oh, that's really something. What were you talking about on your TV show?
We were talking, every once in a while, like my younger brother or my parents will bring out the tapes to embarrass me. But I thought I knew a whole...
I wish we had a clip.
I'm so glad we don't. But I was very earnest, even then. And talking about everything from racism to sexism to teenage pregnancy, all of these issues.
At
and we would have
15.
other young people on the show. We would have callers. We would talk about issues that were happening in the schools.
And a long-running show, too.
4 years, yeah. 4 years of public access. I mean, that's
a lifetime.
A lifetime in television, absolutely.
That is amazing. So then you go to college. Majored in
political science. I was in student government. I was the president of the student body for my junior and senior year. I interned on Capitol Hill. I got really involved in local work in DC and did some youth organizing work, and that transitioned into doing voting rights and was in voting rights for a while, doing everything from working on alternative voting systems in the South and traveling in the South to doing work around felony disenfranchisement.
So you see, this is my sense that you've been my hero for 1,000 years, but you started when you were 12.
Yeah, I had a really early.
Yeah, and that drive you think came from?
I know it came from having a family that talked about politics and policy. It came from this understanding that there was a way to make things right. From the stories of my grandfather and remembering sort of the idea of my grandfather in a country that didn't value his education, that he would want to still participate and make his voice heard. That still is incredibly powerful to me and motivating.
Right, and the Color of Change, 1.2 million members and counting. That's huge. Is that like the largest?
We are the largest online civil rights organization. We have the largest online presence of any civil rights organization in the country. Absolutely.
And what are we fighting for these days? What's the?
Well, so much of our work is forcing institutions and government to be responsive to the needs and concerns of Black people. The story of Color of Change's birth was that we were started in a flood, Hurricane Katrina. That was caused by bad decision makers, right? That turned into an epic, life-altering disaster by bad decision makers. Black people were literally on their roofs begging for the government to do something, and nothing happened. And in the process, it exposed weaknesses in this civil rights infrastructure, the ability to channel everyday people's energy into demands. People were giving to the Red Cross when they should have been doing structural change. And in a sense, the exposure was that nobody was nervous about disappointing black people. And when people are not nervous about disappointing your community, all sorts of things will happen to you. And that was really at the heart of it. And that's still at the heart of so many of the campaigns that we run. It's about forcing institutions and government to be responsive to our needs.
Founded by Van Jones, that we still see doing analysis on CNN, and James Rucker. We have a little clip you talking about color change. Let's take a look at that now.
Color of Change has helped to build a culture of participation that we've seen over the last 10 years. But we can't mistake cultural presence for cultural power. What we have to do every single day is translate the presence that people have in the world on our issues into the type of cultural power that makes real change.
Color of Change, engaging people, is at the heart of how you make the rules different to benefit everyone.
Whether it's a campaign against ALEC to get corporations to withdraw their money and membership, whether it's campaigns to keep net neutrality, whether it's campaigns around Trayvon Martin or Michael Brown or police accountability, Color of Change is at the forefront of getting new voices into the process, engaging campaigns that actually win.
In the process of winning, it really is about thinking through strategy. It's about how do we leverage power? It's how are we telling the story the right way?
So now your strength in your entire career, your lifetime, is telling the story and in the correct way. Your handle on media has always been your power. What's the secret to that? And then we're going to talk about some of your recent successes. But it's the media. It's handling that communications piece that's the strength of the change that you bring about.
I think it's recognizing the importance of stories and storytelling, the importance of building common ground and giving people something clear to do, of recognizing the different things that different audiences need. So as we're communicating with our members, people who are with us already, we're giving them something clear to do and we're talking about the issue a certain way. When I'm talking in mainstream media or CNN or other places, I'm communicating in a different way and trying to help bring people along and bring people in. And so recognizing the importance of story, recognizing the importance of messaging, and recognizing how everybody needs something to do. So it's not just enough to talk about the problems, it's about uplifting and holding up solutions.
And at the center of this is the petition. You know, this is how you begin it. You sign this petition, and you just had a victory recently with the upcoming presidential election. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, the Color of Change PAC is running this incredible campaign around holding corporations who are invested in the Republican convention accountable and asking them to divest. This is not a campaign that Color of Change runs every 4 years, but there's something different happening right now. We're asking people to take a step back and not do business as usual. We're asking corporations to think differently about their investments because of Donald Trump and because of the ways in which he's attacked every community, from women to Muslims to Latinos to black folks. His history and his rhetoric is something that corporate brands shouldn't put their names behind. So we've been successful. Coca-Cola, Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard.
Just on board, right?
Yes,
right?
all of these corporations. And so the petition is part of that, right? So we go out and we rally people and we educate them and they sign a petition, but we're also having back and forth behind the scenes conversations. We're mobilizing people to phone calls and to rallies at some of these at headquarters. We're doing a whole lot of other things, but the petition is sort of like our virtual door knock. It's a way to capture the energy of people, get them on board, and then we give people more and more things to do. We call it the ladder of engagement. We ask people to do something like low bar, like signing a petition. Then we ask them to make phone calls. Then we ask them to show up to a rally. Then we may ask them to give money so we can take out billboards. All along the way, building greater and greater power, and once again, forcing those corporations to be nervous about disappointing black people.
And this campaign is called Repudiate Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, when many people seem to be a little reluctant to engage in this fight, why do you think that is?
I think that Donald Trump is a bully. And I think that he's been really successful at scaring people away from standing up and pushing back. And as we've continued to tell the corporations that we get on the phone with, we say, it may seem expedient just to do business as usual, to put our hands over our eyes, our hands over our ears, our hands over our mouth, and hope that this all goes away. But it's not going to go away if we don't stand up. In 5, 10, 15 years from now, we've all got to be able to look ourselves in the mirror and say, what did we do in this moment where we had an opportunity to stand up and push back and say, this is not America, or this shouldn't be America, and do something different. And so as we've run this campaign, as we've been more successful, what's been most exciting to me is how we've been able to welcome a diverse coalition of organizations that have joined us in this effort, from Muslim groups to Latino groups to women's groups to, groups that are largely led by white folks. This has been a multiracial, multi-gender, multi-religious coalition of advocates standing up and pushing back.
And you had great success with Fox News, your petition that you did with Nas.
Yeah.
What was over 600,000 people who signed on to that petition to tell Fox to stop demeaning President Obama and his wife.
And yeah, a lot of people stood up and pushed back. We weren't successful right away with that petition, but we came back quickly a couple of years later, and we were actually very successful in getting Fox to fire Glenn Beck. We led a 2-year campaign going after corporation after corporation, and part of that was a real clear theory of change. We weren't going after Fox in that campaign. We were thinking about all these corporations, and we were saying, hey, you can't come for black folks' money by day and try to have a relationship with us and then give and sponsor Glenn Beck by night. And you have to make a choice. Mm-hmm. And corporation after corporation dropped after Glenn Beck went on the air and said President Obama's a racist with a deep-seated hatred for white people. We ran that campaign. It was super successful. By the last episode of the Glenn Beck show, the show actually still had high ratings. But the only advertising they could sell was to that company that, you put gold in an envelope, you send it in, and they send you back cash. Right. It was no longer those big corporations like Honda and McDonald's and Walmart that were sponsoring that show. And so that was the power of saying to Fox, this is not going to be profitable.
Right. Incredible. Your campaign about the local media in New York City. We have a clip where you talk about that, why you did it, and the impact of it. The crime rates that local reporters were giving out, just every day that happened to be not true. Let's take a look at this clip.
What people see and hear in the media has a tremendous effect on their lives, has a tremendous effect on decisions they make, from decisions that are made in the schoolhouse to the courthouse. If you were to believe local news in New York, you would think that 72% of assaults were committed by black folks. But that number is not even close to correct when you compare it to NYPD arrest records. This type of overrepresentation, sends a message that it's okay and it's justified to fear black folks. It sends a message about who black people are that is, harmful and hurtful. And we see the stark contrast between crime that's actually happening and what the media is actually showing. The idea that our media represents this two New Yorks, this New York where some people are going to be treated fairly and equitably and some people are not, then that then plays out in our criminal justice system with policies like broken windows and stop and frisk. Make no mistake, news directors, reporters have a ton of stories to choose from. The decisions that are made in those bullpens inside of local news stations impact people's psyche every single day. It's something that we cannot overlook. All of this information, all of this data points to the fact that local news can do better. And we stand ready to sit at the table and help to make it happen.
Excellent work, So how does one get a petition, a campaign going on Color of Change?
Well, there's a couple of ways. So first, I have the privilege of leading a talented team of staff who are constantly looking for campaigns and thinking about sort of what are the issues that if we hit it the right way, we can unlock something bigger, that we can respond to a moment, but pivot to systemic change and build energy and bring new people and new voices to the table. So we're running campaigns every single day. But in the last year, we actually launched this new platform. It's incredible. It's called Organize4.
I love that.
.org.
Right.
So Organize for either the number or FOR
Right.
.org. And so organize for my community, organize for women's rights, organize for civil rights. And this platform allows everyday people to go on and start their own petitions and their own campaigns. We've also been partnering with local organizations that sometimes don't have as much capacity online, and helping them build more campaigns with an understanding that we're only going to be able to run so many campaigns at Color of Change, but there are important issues on the ground in everybody's community where if they can just identify the right moment, build the right energy, get more people to the table, they can force the type of change that brings about real results.
What I like about this piece of your work is that you're actually training, you're giving help to people, you're training them. So that there will be more Rashad Robinsons out there.
Yes, so we're running regular webinars, and so when people go to the site, they can sign up for a future webinar. We're doing trainings on the ground. We've built a training team. As we've been doing this work and responding to moments in Ferguson or Baltimore or in Texas and other places, and we get into the ground and we're working with communities, we recognize the smarts, the talent, the passion of folks on the ground who sometimes just need the tools and the resources to be able to take their work to the next level. And so what we're trying to do is provide that, recognizing that the 21st century work around civil rights isn't just about building big brick and mortar. It's about identifying sort of the opportunities on the ground and providing the next generation of tools to help people move.
Which is the question I wanted to ask you. What do the old civil rights organizations think about you?
I think that I think it's complicated.
Right.
I
love that. It's complicated.
Yeah, I think it's complicated. I think we've had some. I just spoke at the National Action Network
Right.
Annual
Al Sharpton's,
conference, Al
right?
Sharpton's.
Yeah.
We've run some campaigns to force Twitter to release their diversity data with Reverend Jackson, who I grew up, watching him run for president, and it was such a possibility model in terms of what was possible. I grew up in the NAACP. And so I have such a tremendous respect for so much of the leadership, and some of the local chapters are actually running campaigns on Organize4,
Sure,
which is
I'm sure they
exciting.
are.
And
instead of the organization's website, that's why I asked you.
Yes. And at the same time,
Yeah.
we've sometimes been on the opposite sides of issues. Color of Change is the only national black civil rights organization that doesn't take big corporate money. And so there have been times like the fight for a free and open internet, where we've been on the other side of the table, and we've actually pushed back against institutions that were taking money from big telecom companies and siding against an open internet and parroting those talking points. And so we believe in being independent, and we believe also in that coalitions are important. And we will work with anyone as long as we're able to come to the table and work collaboratively.
I want to go through quickly just some of the campaigns. Of course, Sandra Bland, Trayvon Martin, you had campaigns for those. Quickly, how effective? What's the result of that?
I think, taking on those moments allows us to channel the energy of everyday people and start chipping away at the entrenchment of policies that put black people and young black people in harm's way. In the Trayvon moment, we were not successful in getting justice for Trayvon. But through that work, we actually were able to pivot to a campaign around the American Legislative Exchange Council, also known as ALEC, which was behind the Stand Your Ground law.
Sure.
They wrote the Stand Your Ground law at their conference and pushed it into 26 states. We were able to go after ALEC through a campaign. 98% of ALEC's money actually came from corporations. And once we found that out, we went after those corporations who came to black folks' communities every day and said, buy our products or use our services.
Sure.
Over 100 corporations have now left ALEC because of our campaign. We left them with a $1.5 million budget shortfall. We forced them to shut down the committees that were working on Stand Your Ground and voter ID. So we've been very successful. On the Sandra Bland issue, we hired a private investigator, and we sent the private investigator down. Our members raised money, $70,000 in 72 hours, to send a private investigator down to Waller, Texas. We uncovered all this collusion between the bail bonds industry, the judge, and the sheriff, which has now led us to a national campaign to end money bail. And now we're working on money bail issues in states around the country and nationally, and doing it because of what's happened to not just to Sandra Bland, but to so many other families. So sometimes we're not always successful in the moment at getting justice, but what we constantly try to do is find the underlying issues that have put folks in harm's way, attack those, and try to create long-term systemic change.
So a couple of the other ones. The FBI has racially biased face recognition. That's one. Police, Stingray.
We are very focused as an organization that uses and leverages technology, the ways in which surveillance and other tactics are used to put our communities in harm's way. And that has been a history in the civil rights movement, from COINTELPRO to other policies that have made it hard for Black folks to communicate. So while we push for an open internet and while we use technology, we recognize that we've got to hold government accountable for how they use technology as well.
So when I first heard about you, you were at GLAAD, working in the gay rights sphere of things, and had so many great successes. Equal marriage, don't ask, don't tell. All of that. So, and now you still serve on boards that address that. What are the lessons that you learned there that you're now applying, that were in the gay sphere, that now are in the civil rights sphere?
Well, a lot of what happened, the reason why I even left GLAAD was my niece had just been born, and I was looking at this young Black girl, and I was thinking about the world for her and what could I do as her uncle. And I would see things on TV, and I would say, if that was gay, we would get it off the air. We would run a campaign and we would win. And I'm like, who is doing this work? And I knew of Color of Change, and I knew of the leadership, and I would write them notes sometimes, or I would call them and I'd say, you guys should be taking on this, or you should be taking on that. And finally they got tired of my phone calls and said, we're looking for a new leader. Maybe you should come and take this on or take that on. And so much of this work for me is not about politics. It's personal. It's about my family. It's about the people that I grew up with. It's about people having a voice to be heard and counted and visible regardless of who they are. And so much of the work I did at GLAAD and so much of the work that I do now really that's where it comes from.
And I was reading your Twitter feed. You were saying that when HP finally came on board with this repudiate Donald Trump, it took you back to your childhood of that kid who had dreams of equality. And, I think the way you put it was that is what was in your heart and strategy in your brain.
Yeah, it's funny, just seeing, sometimes I do have to pinch myself. I have to pinch myself here on the set with you growing up, watching you in my home in Long Island on TV, and seeing beautiful, smart, intelligent Black women, where and now seeing myself in the New York Times, in a quote in the New York Times, in a newspaper that, when you're on Eastern Long Island, it's the paper that smart people read, right?
Yes, you're a New York Times, sweetheart.
So that you always that only lasts so long, right? So you always have to worry when you're when people are saying too many nice things when you're doing activism. I say that to say that the work of building Color of Change, of translating these moments that are happening in the world into real things that people can do, and giving people the ability to make their voices heard is such a tremendous responsibility, but it's also an honor. And I feel like sometimes I do have to pinch myself
we're so thrilled that you are doing what you're doing with tremendous success. It's just terrific. We always end the program, which I'm so sorry, you'll have to come back.
Of course.
Asking the guest to finish the sentence: the strength, the power of Black America lies in. Where do you believe that is?
I think it lies in our stories and our ability to tell them, to shape them, and to get them out into the world.
So the stories, but you also are building what I think you describe as a cultural revolution. That policy alone can't change.
But policy alone can't change our position, that we also have to change culture. We talk about it at Color Change in terms of translating presence into power. Black people are present in all spheres, but how do we translate that presence in the world into the power to change the written and the unwritten rules that govern our lives?
And how is that?
And we do that through activism. We do that through telling our stories. We do that through holding institutions and government accountable and making people understand that they have to be nervous about disappointing Black people.
Are you optimistic that we're going to forge ahead here, or there's so many things that crop up, like the voter ID, what you call the new poll tax,
Yes.
right? When you see these things, you make so much progress, and then suddenly,
I think that we can never take our eye off the ball. But if I know anything, I will always bet on Black people, and I will always bet on Black people rising up, pushing back, and pushing forward, because that has been our story in this country, and that has been the story of any progress. At every stage in this country, when this country has moved forward, has reached new heights, it's been because of Black people at the center of that story.
what do you think your grandfather would be saying about you?
I think he would be really proud. I think he would be incredibly interested with all the technology we're using and may roll his eyes a bit. But I think that I hope he would be just incredibly proud of the young kid, the young boy that would read him the box scores for the Mets of where I am now.
And to read him the
voting booth.
the voting booth, because he couldn't.
Yeah.
And well, he certainly produced a terrific grandson. Thank you so much, Rashad, for being with us and for all the work that you do.
Thanks for having me. This is an honor.
Great, thanks. And thanks to you all out there, too, for joining us today. I'm Carol Jenkins. The show is Black America, and we will see you the next time. Thank you.